Hey everybody, welcome to the SkyLounge here to discuss some Vegas Golden Knights action. Funny enough, this is the second take I'm doing just because the audio, long story short, the audio for my fucking mic wasn't working proper for the last few days, so that kind of fucked me over real bad, but it's okay. We're back at it now. So I want to talk about what happened throughout the free agency for the Vegas Golden Knights, who left, who's in, who got extended, all this great shit. So I want to cover that shit right now, starting with the guys who are out of our squad. So James Neal goes to Calgary for a deal of $5.75 million per year for 5 years. And here's the thing, James Neal happens to be one of my favorite players in the Vegas Golden Knights, and I do have his jersey. However, I do understand from a business perspective that you don't want to sign a guy like James. You don't want to re-up a guy like James Neal relative to age and everything. So best of luck to James Neal in Calgary. Again, there's nothing but love and adoration from us fans for guys like James Neal and David Perron. Those inaugural guys, there's nothing but love from us fans. There's really nothing but love. And same goes for the second guy, David Perron, who goes to St. Louis Blues for $4 million a year for 4 years. Definitely great for St. Louis, especially the way they lost. That last match of the season to, get into the playoffs. And now with St. Louis bolstering all their blue line, their offense, and even their goalkeeping, man, I think St. Louis is going to be a very curious contender for the playoffs next season, so that's going to be interesting to watch. So players that we brought in from other teams and through free agency, let's go ahead and talk about it. Paul Stastny, obviously the big one. $6.5 million a year for 3 years, per year for 3 years. So what I think about this is an absolutely great find for Vegas Golden Knights for a big free agent. Now, next to John Tavares, Paul Stastny was the second big name out there. He was the big second line center that everybody would have loved in a lineup. And I know that the criticism coming from Paul Stastny where during the playoffs, he kind of disappeared. And, fair play to Winnipeg because they did well. But yes, certainly certain pieces weren't up to par in certain parts of the playoffs. But that could be said for everybody. Even William Karlsson didn't really have the brightest moments in the final. Colin Miller, same could be said. And so really, if you're gonna do that shit, everyone makes mistakes, so that's the reality of the matter. But also the reality of the matter is Paul Stastny is a fantastic goal scorer, great second line center to have, especially for Vegas depth. And to pair him up with potentially Tomas Tatar and Alex Tuch, right? And because more than likely what's gonna happen is Eric Hall is gonna get moved down to that third line. And Eric Hall, perhaps Cody Eakin, maybe Eric Lindbergh. Not Eric Lindbergh, but Lindbergh. They're gonna. I don't think his first name is Eric, but Lindbergh. There we go. Oscar Lindbergh. Fuck me, Oscar Lindbergh. They're gonna be in that third line, so we're gonna see what's gonna happen throughout the entirety of the season, really through practice and training camp and everything, how that line's going to form up. And so let's talk about the blue line and the addition that we made from the New York Rangers, Nick Holden. And I understand the criticism from him is that he didn't really have an outstanding season throughout the last few years. Very below and subpar numbers in terms of production. But at the same time, this is the same that was said for almost every Vegas players. And again, if you fit into a system and the system predicates you, it's predicated on you not being the alpha dog, not having your ego on. Cats can flourish. You've seen William Karlsson, you've seen guys like Colin Miller, you've seen guys like Derek Englund, Nate Schmidt, Braden McNabb, all these guys, they elevated their game because of the system, the coach, and the culture. So I think Nick Holden can see a bit of different light, and we really hope he does. So hey, welcome, 2 big fucking free agent signings, and also one signing that not a lot of people mention, but I think is going to be really good for us long term, and in terms of depth, and also for the Chicago Wolves, our minor league affiliate team. Daniel Carr signed from the Montreal Canadiens for approximately $750,000 for 1 year. I think, again, great piece of business, especially the fact that, what Vegas was able to do was re-sign Brandon Peary for a 1-year deal, a young player that was able to prove that he is a goal scorer in the NHL potentially. Max Lagacé, who was an emergency backup goaltender throughout the stretch where Malcolm Subban, Oscar Dansk, and Marc-Andre Fleury were all injured. So there's a lot of faith from the Vegas Golden Knights administration, from what I understand, for giving him that kind of extension. And also Oscar Dansk for a 2-year, $675,000 a year extension, which approximates to $1.35 million for a contract valuation. And this says to me that Vegas isn't just about the NHL. They're all about developing that youth culture. And when you see that as a fan, I get excited. I get excited and say, you know what, man, maybe even 10 years down the line, who the hell knows? Maybe we'll still have prospects coming out and out. And it really starts from that culture of cultivating youth early, of, showing that support to the youth and saying, you know what, we have faith in you. Just look at the Toronto Marlies on how they won the Calder Cup. And just the way they were cultivating the youth, the way they were maturing and developing their youth players and prospects. So I would love to see something like that. And if in my time the Chicago Wolves, as a Vegas Golden Knights affiliate, can win the Calder Cup, I would love to see that in action, just because it's a cup that's just so fucking awesome to see. And so let's talk about some other big extensions that, other than the small, 1-year guys that are relatively minor league and, younger guys. Let's talk about the big names here. So Ryan Reeves signs a contract valuation of $5.55 million at an annual earning of $2.775 million, 2-year contract. So I thought this was a bit steep for a fourth line grinder, really. But at the same time, it's one of those premiums I feel that the NHL, I feel NHL teams kind of have to pay, because Ryan Reeves also brings depth, scoring, tenacity, and it's kind of difficult to measure that in value sometimes. And yeah, I think it's a little bit overvalued, but it's going to be great to see Ryan Reeves, the enforcer, get his shit and just tackle, just fucking check the shit out of people. I apologize, folks. I had to just double check my camera on some shit on that moment there. But let's also talk about Colin Miller. Colin Miller gets a 4-year extension, $3.875 million a year at a total valuation of $15.5 million for a contract. I think this is a great signing. I think obviously Colin has a lot of upsides, a young, talented kid, and Here's my take on what I think is going to happen. Obviously, Brayden McNabb got that contract extension throughout during the 2017-2018 inaugural season, and I believe Nate Schmidt is going to be a restricted free agent either the next upcoming summer or the summer after that. So my whole philosophy, I feel Vegas will say, you know what, these 3 guys, Colin Miller, Nate Schmidt, and Brayden McNabb, we're keeping long term. We're going to have these 3 guys in the blue line to develop our young guys. And potentially, we could see Erik Karlsson coming into that fucking blue line. That's right, I said it. Erik motherfucking Karlsson. So if we get Erik Karlsson, I don't know what I'm going to do. I might actually freak the fuck out. But we'll see what the fuck happens with Otto, because Otto was a clusterfuck, and I would love to talk about that shit, and I will eventually when we do the season preview and prediction next month. But let's talk about the other signings that we made and the extensions, and I'd say the last 2 or 3 are big major ones. Well, let's get the minor ones out of the way real quick though. Tomas Nosek, $962,000 fucking dollars a year for 1 year. William Carrier, 2 years, $1.45 million contract valuation, about $725,000. 2 players who I think are obviously great fourth line depth pieces to have. We've seen Nosek just fucking tear it up in the playoffs. We've seen Carrier just being a fucking dog in that fourth line, being able to just be that physical presence when need be. And again, to have those guys is fantastic, because they can go back and forth between the Chicago Wolves or stay in the NHL. Again, they bring that depth, and depth is always good. Depth is good. Unless with depth you are paying albatross contracts. That's when depth kind of sucks. And there's a lot of teams in the NHL that kind of has that unfortunate mantra and fucking modus operandi going on. But let's talk about the last 2 contract extensions, and these are huge. These are absolutely huge. Marc-Andre Fleury. So Marc-Andre Fleury got a contract extension of 3 years, $7 million a year at a total valuation of $21 million. Now, I have a lot of things to say about Marc-Andre Fleury. Now, Marc-Andre Fleury, during the Washington Capitals series, I know he didn't have the best playoff series, but bar from that Stanley Cup Final series against Washington, Marc-Andre Fleury was fantastic. Marc-Andre Fleury just proved to everybody, all the doubters wrong. He's aged, but his skills has not gone away. If you actually consider the amount of games he played during the regular season and the amount of fucking goals he was saving in the playoffs, I mean, this guy could have been a Conn Smythe, winner. And obviously Ovi deservedly gets the Conn Smythe. I'm not taking anything away from that, but what I am saying though, when it comes down to it, Pecorino wins the best goalkeeper, right? He wins the Vezina award, but I honestly feel if maybe Marc-Andre Fleury played a couple more games, Vezina and Conn Smythe. And for Vegas to show that kind of faith to Marc-Andre Fleury and say, we're gonna give you 3 more years. Because you're the face of our franchise. You have united this community together in that sense. Because in a weird way, sports brings a community together. Sports brings a collective group of strangers together and cheer for a common cause that nobody else would have fucking foreseen, years ago. And now we have a team that we call our own. And Marc-Andre Fleury being the face of that, our community loves it. I mean, Vegas was excited and ecstatic the day he got extended. Myself included. I was over the moon. And, congrats to Marc-Andre Fleury because the man deserves every penny of that contract extension. And speaking of contract extension, let's talk about our young buck, William Karlsson, Wild Bill. So Wild Bill, a couple days ago, I believe on Sunday or Saturday, finally, after I feel like a month of just arbitration, all these rumors, finally signs a 1-year deal, $5.25 million. And for me, this is just a great signing by Vegas. And reason why I say this is the reason why I say this. You have William Karlsson. He's going to be a restricted free agent next summer. And so you still have him. But the way you have him is a motivational way to keep him. To say, you know what, Bill? We're going to give you $5 million this year. But you go out there and you prove to us that you're a 35 consistent goal scorer and you can put 70 plus points on the board for the season. Man, I mean, look at what John Tavares just got for the Maple Leafs. I mean, you don't think William Karlsson's going to get that fucking much if he can have that kind of point production and goal scoring ability? And again, tied with the fucking fact that you have Riley Smith and Jonathan Marchessault in the same line who can provide points, who are going to make you better. And you are playing in a system that you will thrive in. I'm telling you, William Karlsson will score 35 or more goals. Potentially Rocket Richard. I don't know. And here's the thing. The one unmitigated factor, right, has to be the fact that Ovi is just immortal. He's just never going to age. And to be honest, I think Ovi might win another Rocket Richard trophy. Who the fuck knows? But again, guys, this is really just all the kind of summary and my thought process of what I think the extensions mean to us, the ins and outs of free agency. And obviously, for our first year of Vegas Golden Knights community, we're very excited. We're very excited to see what can happen throughout the next season, our second season. And I got season tickets lined up, so I am super excited. I'm going to be at some of those games, watching as much as possible, digesting, relaying the facts, putting review videos up. And guys, if you like that shit, click in the links in the description below to follow me on all the social medias at thescylounge. Comment and subscribe for daily content, and until next time, fuck off.